Thanks, Alex. Paul Piccinini, I'm with the International Ice Hockey Federation Medical Commission and also the IOC Medical Commission. And I was going to let Glenn get away with this once, but when he brought it up twice, I do need to correct him on that whole doctor issue. The NHL and the NHLPA both had physician representatives at the Olympics who had full access to their players. They also participated in the pre-event medical meeting where all of the doping and other health and safety issues were discussed. And I would also point out that there was an absolute bulletproof system for communicating injury information back to the host teams while respecting the rights of the athletes as well. So I respect the fact that there may be some logistical issues and stuff that needs to happen in terms of getting general managers past lineups, but in terms of the health and safety of the athletes, I think the NHL, NHLPA and the IOC were all on the same page.
Thank you, Glenn.
I would respectfully disagree, and disagree that it was not a one-of issue. There were a couple of players where there were some issues, and Anisimov might be a name that comes to mind. So we have to have a better system, because $2.1 billion of players are the huge and best assets of our game. And when we hand them over, they have to get the absolute best. And I'm not disrespecting the medical services that teams provide, but clubs seem to feel that they give better and more astute medical attention to their players, and they want to be on board with it in every way. I'm sure Burke can chime in. He handed a bunch of players off to the Olympics as well.
But by the way, I agree with Glenn entirely. I was part of the discussions. We made improvements with respect to our physician access to our players these Olympics, but it wasn't ideal.
Brian?
Well, from the U.S. team perspective, I would agree with what the doctor said in terms of the quality primary care on site. But I know the other NHL, I mean, I had a credential as a GM. I got to see all my players. I could go wherever I wanted. The other GMs have to buy a ticket, and they can't ever have contact with their players. The players are kept in a sterilized situation the entire time. They finish the game. The two guys that get doped. They get on the bus. They're back in the village. So players that were injured, the communication to their teams wasn't bulletproof, as you mentioned. Now, you might have communicated directly to the trainer, but the GM's in the building. He says, I just want to ask how the player's doing. A guy gets his bell rung, whatever. They have no access. And so, to me, that's an easily fixable thing. You don't want 30 credentials down on the arena floor. But there's got to be like a mix zone, like they do for the media, where team personnel can get access to their players.
By the way, in 2006, I think 2 Vancouver Canuck defensemen went down, and Dave Nonis, the general manager of the Vancouver Canucks at the time, is calling me saying, I need to get information about my players. I need to know what their status is. And I reached out to the IIHF, the IOC. I couldn't get anything. Our clubs didn't get any information with respect to their players and their injury conditions. That's a problem.
In fairness, quick response from the floor.
Very quick response, Bill, and I think it was because of the Torino experience that the IIHF, the IOC, and the NHL worked together.
I was part of those discussions. I know what we did.
And I think the system for communicating injury information back to the GMs and the team through the team physicians, once the athlete had okayed that information be released,
which not all athletes did.
Right, which is their right according to the medical code. So if the athlete doesn't want information released about him, that's his prerogative. And I think with that minor exception where an athlete said, I don't want anybody to know about my injury, the system that was in place was absolutely perfect and agreed to by all 3 parties.
Well, it's not a minor situation where...
I don't think it was perfect.
Again, the assumption that teams will provide players who are under contract, making millions of dollars, putting them at risk, that they can't get access to the information that they would get if we didn't shut down, and this player was injured in a National Hockey League game. I mean, Mr. Fassel's reply to Yzerman's injury, he missed the rest of the year. And Renee said, I'm sorry, that's too bad. Well, guess what? That's not a good answer. And he said he could have got hurt in the Detroit Red Wings game. Yes, he could have. Where he's getting paid and the team is making money off the contest and the medical information is up to the second. So it wasn't perfect. You can protest all you want. It wasn't perfect.
I guess the final comment would be that,
quickly, please.
And Bill Wood has alluded to this, that although there may be challenges, we have moved forward in this area, and I think we're all on the same page in terms of making sure that within the rights of the athlete, the health and safety of the athlete everybody was in agreement that it had improved since Torino, and if there's minor improvements or tweaks that are needed, I think everybody's prepared to do that.
I agree with that.
We've got to wrap up in about 2, maybe 3 minutes time, so why don't we bring it full circle and go back to what Ralph Kruger presented.